This is Comic Geek Speak, Infinite Crisis, Episode 4. And welcome to Comic Geek Speak, where we discuss nothing but Infinite Crisis Issue 4. I'm Brian Deemer.
I'm Matt.
I'm Kevin Moyer.
I'm Shane Kelly.
I'm Jamie D.
I'm Peter Reis.
And once it's that time again, once again.
Once again.
Get the hell on.
And we are infinite bitches, that's all I want to say.
No, we're infinite duchy is what.
Spoilers if you don't know the drill. This is going to be nothing but spoilers.
All I know is I got done reading this, I put it down, and I said, what the fuck?
We're also going to swear.
It was just some amazing shit that happened in this.
Earmuffs for your kid.
Yeah, earmuffs. I was blown away. I mean, for the first three stuff happened, but not compared to this issue. What did everybody else think?
Floodgates were opened.
It finally, for me, it was like you said, the first three issues, which are phenomenal. You know, they really delved into like where you're going to go, what they're trying to focus on, and then all of a sudden, this issue was just like I can't imagine what they're going to do for 5, 6, and 7. It's so everything that happened in here had importance and just such a weight. It didn't even take me to the end of the book to stop and say, "Oh my God!" They were like literally moment after moment after moment that just blew me away. I've never, I don't think I've ever read a book that just my jaw dropped in at least 2 places. Literally, I know people say that for fun, but it literally, I was like, "What?" This is definitely the best issue of this series so far.
My jaw dropped first 2 times was page 2 and page 8. Page 2 was Bloodhaven, and page 8 was I shouldn't say my jaw dropped on page 8, but that's probably my favorite moment was the Batman and Dick Grayson interaction.
Really? Because I thought that actually could have gone without it.
Oh, really?
Get out.
Yeah.
Get out now. Just get out. What are you talking about?
I thought that was nice.
Get out of the room.
How many times have they reconciled? That's part of it. The other thing, this maybe it wouldn't bother me
But who's
much.
doing the reconciliation?
Wait, my biggest problem with it is if you read, because it's here on the last page, it gives you a little summary about issue 4. It says here, witness a shocking confrontation between Batman and Nightwing. To me, a confrontation means there's going to be arguing, there's going to be maybe even fisticuffs.
But you've seen that how many times, though?
But I'm just saying, don't put it in there as a confrontation.
I agree with that.
Like
it's not a
telling
confrontation.
me a divine comedy isn't something like Dogma that's funny.
Well,
or
I think you're taking confrontation to the extreme. Confrontation is just 2 people meeting up, and that's a confrontation.
No. When I don't want to have to read in between the lines.
No, there is no.
We're doing an Animal Man here.
Okay,
I want it straightforward.
No. See, I think the reason why that scene works, and I'm a huge, everybody knows I love Nightwing, and I've been following these characters, and I've been following what writers have been doing between Batman and Robin and Dick Grayson. I am tired of the scenes where Dick goes to Batman, Batman shuns him, somebody throws a punch. It happened in Batman 800 or 600, whatever that is. It happened in A Lonely Place of Dying. Batman came to Nightwing. That's why this is such a huge scene. He came to him, and what does he say? I need your help.
Yep.
You turn the page, it's a scene about Superman.
Yep.
They didn't continue the conversation. That is a huge cliffhanger. I need your help.
For him to ask that is just immense.
Exactly. And then for him to admit and see, when I saw that, I went, when we talked to Scott Beatty the last time, where he said, Batman's this intense character, and I would hate to see him go in a different direction. You know what? That's been a big thing about Batman. I don't see it as them going, totally 180, and now he's going to be all sweet and loving.
No.
That is a huge step for him, and you know what? They've been saying that this series is about Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman, restoring them to a place where everybody can see why they are heroes. And when he said, "I need your help," and then asked him about, what was your childhood like,
Yep.
and all, I went, wow, there it is. That sold that issue for me.
Because there's
Doesn't
Batman
sound
in
like
the
a confrontation, though.
But by the way,
No.
the first definition, according to the American Heritage Dictionary of confrontation, is the act of confronting or the state of being confronted, especially a meeting face to face. So there's nothing about
That's because
anger.
that's
or
exactly
anything.
what it was.
Right.
I mean,
A meeting.
I'm just
That's
looking.
like saying a comedy shouldn't be funny if you see,
No,
a
now you're just
divine
trying to- now
comedy.
you're just
No,
trying
no,
to-
because I had the same argument with my literature professor in college. If I see something like Waiting for Godot and I see comedy in there, I expect to laugh, not be bored out of my mind.
Just because you didn't understand it doesn't mean.
Confrontation to me means abuse.
No,
That's not the
I just-
definition of confrontation.
I love this one line here. I mean, or this one speech that he does, and Nightwing says, "Why come to me?" And Batman says, "Because everyone else trusts you. They always have. You put an importance on keeping up relationships that I neglected. You care." And to me, that's from where they're taking Batman in the last couple of years as to being, the jerk, to have him realize that he actually needs someone, and he looks to Nightwing to be something that he can't be, even though Nightwing says, so do you. You just let everyone else think differently. It's still, that you're right. That was just major that was a major turnaround in their relationship.
And if you think about all the critiques that people are having about that All-Star Batman, where they're saying, "Oh, Batman, he's abusive to Dick Grayson, and he's saying I'm the goddamn Batman and stuff like that." How? It's not that much different
Not a
than what
big
he's been
stretch.
doing. Yeah, it's not a huge stretch from
All
what's been going on for the past
Read the
couple
last
years.
parts of the Prodigal storyline. You pretty much get the same thing.
What thing? About him?
About
yeah,
this,
but that, okay,
about
but then a
Dick
couple
Grayson, it could be
issues
Nightwing
later,
and Dick Grayson, not just.
and you can go further back than that. You can go when Dick Grayson gave Jason Todd the Robin costume post-Crisis. Batman was like, "Oh, thank you, Dick." Da 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 da. It was always this back and forth thing that I got tired of. I didn't buy the Prodigal thing because okay, they just did it. They did it in A Lonely Place of Dying. Marv Wolfman wrote it. Denny O'Neil wrote it, and now it's Batman coming to him. And hopefully they will never go back to this whole, this grudge that these two characters seem to have, because it's pointless now. It's pointless. You can still have an intense Batman without always having to be a dick.
Well, I think the grudge is just on Batman's side all these years.
Oh, of course.
It hasn't been with Nightwing for a long time.
Of course. I mean, I can't.
And it was nice. It was nice, and I liked when they had Bruce Wayne adopt Dick Grayson, but it still wasn't Batman and Robin.
There was even
Batman and Nightwing.
a scene in The Wedding of Donna Troy that Marv Wolfman wrote that, in the New Teen Titans, there was strain because Robin left college, he left the partnership, the dynamic duo. He started his own team. Batman started his team, the Outsiders, but Dick Grayson was always a better leader, and Batman had to, in that one crossover between the Titans and the Outsiders, Batman actually had to swallow his pride and go, yeah, you know what? You are better. I mean, Robin actually said, Batman started giving him orders to all the team, and Robin said, boop, goodbye, and he gave the orders. And Batman just stood back, and he had to realize, you know what? He's right. He is the better leader. And then there was a scene at the wedding where Dick was like, you know what? I'm proud of where you are. And then we go back and forth, and then it changes, and then it goes back to that again. It changes all through the years. This one, I thought that was perfect writing for those two characters, and I think it's going to make Batman a stronger character later on. I do. I mean, it's going to get him back. There wouldn't
be a point to do it otherwise,
right,
if it wasn't going to lead to something stronger. Right. Okay, how about the Spectre?
Hey, I'm not changing my opinion.
That's fine.
How about the Spectre?
I could just kick myself because I'm the one who's reading Gotham Central. I know some of the other guys have picked it up too, but I'm the one that's been reading it religiously. And I kept thinking, okay, they're going to make Corrigan the Spectre. Corrigan's the Spectre. And in this last one, Corrigan shoots the detective. I'm trying to remember his name now.
Crispin.
Yeah, and I'm like, well, how the hell is God going to make him the Spectre, his wrath, after he did this? I'm just, I'm trying to figure out, and then to see them turn Crispin into the Spectre, or at least the human host of the Spectre, it just blew me away. I was like, oh, there it is. And now he will go after Corrigan, as because he's basically shot him in cold blood. There's there was a storyline where
Crispin Allen is the commissioner of Gotham City, just in case anybody doesn't know, right?
No, he's not.
No,
He's just a detective on DCU.
Oh, I thought that was the guy.
No, I forget who the commissioner is, but
No,
But it's another black guy, right?
yeah.
Oh, okay.
And he
yes,
doesn't.
it is another gentleman of color.
It's confusing.
But no, what happened was there was a shooting, a police shooting, and the bullets disappeared, and they would have proven that he was justified in the shooting. He said he shot first. There were no bullets to prove it. But what happened was Corrigan took the bullets. Corrigan is a evidence collector, kind of a CSI guy in the Gotham City Police Department. He took those bullets and sold them like on eBay to people who bought stuff. So anyway, Detective Montoya got the bullets back, basically beat the crap out of Corrigan to get the bullets back, or to find out who he sold them to, got the bullets back, cleared him, and ever since then, this Crispin has been going after Corrigan, trying to take him down, because he knows he's dirty, he knows, and so the last couple issues he's been going off on his own to do this, and in the last issue of Gotham Central, at least the last issue I've read, what number is that?
38.
38. Corrigan finds out, sets a trap for him, and basically just shoots him in cold blood. So this is the aftermath of that, where he's on the operating table, and
autopsy
table, and everything. What happens. He basically embodies the Spectre, entraps the Spectre, and now we'll see exactly where he goes with it. But I didn't see it coming. That's what really kicks me in the ass.
There was a funny exchange on the forum about that very thing. Parallax says, "Who's the new Spectre? Detective Crispus effin' Allen from Gotham Central." And let's just go back a few threads to the new Spectre theories thread. And who predicted this? Oh yes, me, baby, me. And then Ben Weldon says, "Who was it who predicted it first?" Maybe he did, I don't know. And then Death and Calabria goes, Dad Didio?
So is this why you wanted me to read Day of Vengeance?
Yeah, because Day of Vengeance
or something happened
takes
to the
place
Spectre?
in between issues 3 and 4, of Infinite Crisis. The Day of Vengeance
special.
Infinite Crisis special takes place in between. But what I thought was kind of cool was that it's completely out of left field about who they chose, and it's like, whoa, like you said.
Mm-hmm. Well, and the whole part of me going back and picking up back issues of Gotham Central was to read about this Jim Corrigan character that I thought would be a no-brainer that he would be the new Spectre.
Right. My jaw dropped after the whole Flash sequence after the Superboy. I'm sure we'll talk about the Superboy battle, but the Flash is grabbing Superboy of Earth Prime, sucking him into the Speed Force, and then all you're left with is Jay Garrick saying the Speed Force is gone, and I was like, what? Hamana? I think because of the tension of the fight, and then the Flash is running it, and I just imagine this like on a movie or something, just the speed of them, and the sacrifice that Wally makes with Linda, and all of a sudden you see Barry Allen, and then you see Max Mercury and John, and just all build, and then that final image.
Yeah, that, and just to hear Barry say, "You're never alone."
Yeah,
you were never alone, and then just had to come out. You could just hear the music going, "Dun!" You were never alone. And pulling him in, very cinematic.
Plus, I mean, you think about 20 years ago, Perez drew the death of Flash. He drew in the Crisis, and now you have him bringing him back again in Infinite Crisis, and I was just like, it just felt like a nice connection. When you talk about the Flashes as a legacy, you talk about the Speed Force connection, and there's an artistic connection as well.
I'm looking over those pages, and I guess when I read it, I assumed that Linda and the kids went with him, literally went with him.
Oh, yeah.
But you don't see that.
You don't see...
On these pages, you see the kid's eyes light up, you see the flash of lightning, and then later you see Wally come to help, but you never see that Linda and the kids actually go with him in the Speed Force. Which I just assumed, but...
Yeah, I took that panel right there with the crack as them all merging.
But that's what I just thought, what if it isn't, and he and Wally being the one who was leaving and Linda grabbing him, Wally invigorated the kids now to be something more at this point than what they would have been otherwise. Because you see them with the flash of lightning, but you don't actually see them disappear into it, which I assume that they do.
Yeah.
But you don't know that.
Yeah.
I got this whole Flash thing. You know, I read it and I'm rereading it right now, and I still don't understand what happened.
With what?
With the whole thing, with the Speed Force, with the wife, with the what the hell's going on? I don't get it.
If you go fast enough into the Speed Force, you actually become one with the Speed Force. They explain that along.
Mark Waid.
Yeah,
Was
Wally
it Ignition?
something like one of those stories.
100.
I think so.
Yeah, one of those stories. He just went. If you go fast enough, you actually lose yourself in the Speed Force. So they took him out by actually pushing him and running fast enough to push him into the Speed Force. Basically, it's another Superboy. It's another realm, another being. And once you get in there, the only thing that actually brought Wally back was supposedly his love and his anchor, which was Linda. That's the only thing he tells her. That's the only thing that brought me back to you was my love for you, and the only thing that brought me out of the Speed Force. So
when?
It was like
back
in
in issue 100 of the Flash.
Oh, okay.
So you have to go back and start reading some of the
I
Flash.
have the issue.
Some of the Mark Waid.
So you mean he got lost in it,
Yeah.
and then he pulled himself back
Yeah,
out?
in fighting, who was it? I can't remember who he was fighting.
Cobra and
Yeah, he
Cobra.
just ran
Cobra
fast enough
Commander?
because he didn't realize at the time that would happen. Pardon me.
It's like the Speed Force is almost like a dimension of nothing but.
it's like Valhalla for the speedsters.
It's like this energy. It's just like a dimension of energy, so to speak, that they tap into. So, like,
Okay.
if you run fast enough, you actually become that energy. So you're just part of that energy flow. So to be able to segregate yourself from that and making a conscious choice on that, and then trying to finding your way back to the correct dimension, is not something that's easy to be done. And that's why they made it the point to have Linda be his anchor and be the guidance for him to be able to come back.
And that was one of the main reasons when he came to her and said, "I'm running." He knew what he was going. He knew what he had to do. He knew he had to sacrifice himself. And Linda just wasn't going to let him go. Linda said, "No,
Not this time.
I'm going to come with you." And that's when she kissed him. The kids, I guess, powers activated, and boom, they're part of the Speed Force. Because if you look at that, he's not there. It's only Bart that's pushing him anymore. And that's when Bart says, "I don't have enough strength. I can't do this alone." And all of a sudden, boom, Barry comes out, and Max comes out, and Johnny Quick comes out, and just everybody who's that was one of the great scenes. Everybody who's passed away or who's gone on to the Speed Force was there to help, and I loved that little bit. And also, I felt so for Jay Garrick when he's just like, "Oh," and he realizes this old man is running as fast as he can, and to do what he can, and just his body, gave out on him, and that's to have him be the lone speedster in the DC universe now. I mean, I'm sure that's not going to stay the way it's going to stay, but to be the lone speedster and then to realize that there is no Speed Force anymore, it'll be very interesting to see what they do now.
I still have questions here, though.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
If Wally, if he comes for his family, why does he then go back into the Speed Force? Why doesn't he just stop running if he's there with his family? I don't get it.
Because
it
he
pulls
can't.
you. It pulls you in. Once you reach a certain point.
Then how did he get to Linda?
Because he says.
This whole thing doesn't make any sense to me.
No, it makes sense. See, when he gets released, see here on that one page where he's like, I can't, don't stop running, but and then if you think about the original Crisis when Barry Allen was spinning around the antimatter cannon, he was going so fast that his images, he was being projected into the future and the past. And all throughout the original Crisis, you were getting those flashes of...
Right, I recall.
That's kind of the same thing that's going on here. He is just about at the point to go into the Speed Force, and I think they even explained it in the Mark Waid storylines a lot, that he's almost in every place at once. When you're going that fast, you are almost everywhere at once. So he knows he's heading there. He sends out one last cry to Linda. She says, "No way." They get turned into the Thunderbolt. And if you follow the panel, they get turned into that lightning.
Oh.
See, how did they get... That's what I don't understand. How did they get roped into the Speed Force?
I think the kids.
Is he carrying
his
him?
twins.
Yeah.
But would she be able to sustain going through the Speed Force, being her as a normal human, not a speedster?
Yeah, because they've taken Savitar, they're taking Superboy. I mean,
Well, Savitar was
a speedster, but I mean, Superboy's not. He's not tied into the Speed Force, so there is precedent to
Yeah, and I think they basically transformed into something else. Because actually he's not going into the Speed Force if you read it. Because I looked at it real fast. It says, and I'm trying to get to it. It says when he comes back, it says, what are you running to? That dimension that gives you your powers, the Speed Force, is that it? No, not the Speed Force. I think someplace else. I have to let go of everything I love. And she's like, no, you don't. And that's when she, kisses him, I guess getting whatever power, which, again, activates the kids, activates their superpowers, and then, like, boom, they're gone. And I guess, I'm not sure exactly if it leaps right into where they're running or whatever Speed Force they're hitting, but that's why I kind of assume. But
yeah, I mean, the lightning bolt, if you follow it, is going back to where Bart is running.
Yep.
I mean, that's very,
Yeah,
otherwise
that's pretty clear.
Yeah, they wouldn't draw that panel. I mean,
The one with the crackoon.
and if you look at it, Kid Flash is actually no longer touching Superboy, so whatever that lightning bolt is, it's pushing Superboy even more. See that?
That's where you get Barry all of a sudden, Bart.
Right. So you're right.
So
I mean, he may
we're-
not be winding up in the Speed Force now.
So
And obviously he's going to come back because there's a new series, Flash, coming out.
So Barry's not dead. He was just stuck in the Speed Force.
Well, it's like I said, it's kind of like a Valhalla.
And he also got leaped to the future, too. Barry did.
Well, and
Right.
also you have to look at it as energy, because energy never dies.
Right.
So even though he, what happened in
displaced.
Infinite Crisis, then his energy went somewhere. So if it is a dimension of energy for speedster people, then his energy when he passed away went into that force and became part of that.
And
Okay.
that's why I think Wade, one of the reasons Wade came up with the Speed Force, also to kind of go with Crisis, to put into a fact that he ran fast enough that he actually became part of the Speed Force.
Yeah.
So that actually gave you the out, gave
bring
writers
him
the
back
out
later,
to bring
yeah.
him back if they really wanted to.
Then do we know why suddenly the Speed Force is no more?
That's what we have to
Yeah.
find out.
Okay, because thought I missed it.
Well,
That's why I was trying
I
to
guess I
understand.
should have equated it this way. Think of it as when a Jedi dies and they go into the Force.
Yeah.
Yet, you have like Qui-Gon, you have Obi-Wan and Yoda talking to Luke
Right.
from the Force.
Right.
Kind of the same thing.
Yeah.
Only, at this point, the Force would be gone, and we don't know why.
Plus, you don't know who that new Flash is either.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
you're not sure
What new
Exactly.
Flash?
Who knew that?
There's
There's
a
going to be a new
series
Flash
coming out.
series at the 1 year later, and
Oh,
they've announced the art team. I mean, the creative team, and they also released a piece of artwork. But
It's like an
there's-
armor suit or something like that. You can't really tell who's in it. And
Yeah,
stuff like
there's no way of determining who it is.
It's a full face with, like, goggles, and you really can't tell at all. Which
Part
I
of
assume
me
is
would-
one of the kids.
Part of me would really, it'd be a ballsy move, and I don't think they'll do it. But
Jay?
if they got rid of Linda and the twins, and just had Wally West again, none of this romance angle, none of these kids, that'd be a ballsy.
That would be
move,
okay
but-
as long as where he was throwing them was throwing them someplace else so that...
Well, no, I mean totally wiping them
Well, yeah,
out.
I
of
don't think they
continuity
will,
altogether.
but the way it looks like, if
Yeah.
he thinks he's going someplace else, he took them somewhere
Yeah.
safe, and then he may come back or one of the kids may come back.
That'd be interesting.
Unless he gets to a point with that energy that he's, after going through it more than once now,
Yeah.
that maybe he's coming accustomed to him and learning how to take it to the next level, whereas no other speedster's been able to do that.
Right.
So maybe he now can go back and forth. Maybe they are in wherever they are at, but he can go back and forth if he wants
Yeah.
to.
It's going to be interesting.
Yeah, and also again a little bit of dialogue here as they're pushing Superboy in. It's Barry says, "Wally's waiting for you, Bart," and then Max says, "Don't be afraid." And Bart says, "I'm not, Max. Let's go." And I'm wondering if the end of the Speed Force has something to do with Superman yelling, "You can't get rid of me. When I grow up, I'm going to be Superman. Don't any of you understand? I'm going to be Superman." And then that's when, boom. So I'm wondering if maybe something because of two different worlds, putting him into the Speed Force, just, at least disrupted it for now.
It's like
Right.
a dimensional rift.
Yeah.
Right.
And just, I mean, it's not, you don't see Jay, it's all shadow, but man, poor Jay. You just look at him and go, oh, God, he realizes it, and now he has to let everybody know that this happened.
Yeah, I mean it's on one hand it's an easy climactic kind of battle. Like, okay, how can we wow the fans? Well, let's do this. But it worked. For me, it worked. It absolutely worked. just as like Gotham City always gets trashed, and this
Now Bloodhaven.
Paradise Island always get now Bloodhaven. It's a target, but I thought they did it beautifully.
Well, and I like sappy stuff. I like when Dick and Batman are talking. I like when Bart says, "Grandpa."
Yeah,
I mean, it's great. He knows he's not alone at that moment.
And plus, of any of the characters to be left behind, Jay's perfect.
Oh yeah.
So
Yeah. The first, you think about it, the first and the latest.
right,
Jay Garrick and Kid Flash are the only ones left. Or wait, is Kid Flash left?
Kid
No,
Flash
did he go
is there.
too?
He's in it too.
Oh yeah.
Jay's the only one.
Because he's not afraid to go in. He goes right in it.
That's right.
So you're back to the original Flash.
Yeah.
He's the only one left.
Yeah.
At this point, it's more or less like it was.
Although doesn't he get sucked into Earth 2 then? Because he's
Right.
one of the JSA.
Yep, he
so then
does.
there are no Flashes on
On this
On-
world, yeah.
At this point, yeah.
Earth 1 or whatever.
I thought the other thing that I really appreciated, or that kind of made the series made you understand where all this stuff is going from, is the explanation that Alexander Luthor gives about his plans. I think it's on page 1, 2, 3, 4,
They
5.
Need the number.
Yeah, on page 5, where he just goes through and he tells you why Villains United is there, and he tells you how he started Day of Vengeance, and how he started Rann-Thanagar War, and OMAC, and this is the thing we've been waiting for, is like, how do all these pieces fit? And when I read it, I said, there it is. That's there's an encapsulation of all the stuff that led up to this, and I thought it was a nice topper, because what that means is now 5, 6, and 7, we won't have to focus on all those miniseries so much anymore. Other than the Infinite Crisis specials that still need to come out for, Villains United and Rann-Thanagar. And OMAC Project, yeah.
Well, and actually, if you didn't read those, it kind of gives you just a brief idea of what
Yeah,
happened.
that's the other thing, too.
I like the idea that the anti-monitor body, the corpse, was just floating out there in space.
It's always been there. I also like that, Power Girl's like, oh, so that's why Wonder Woman killed. That's why Batman is so paranoid. And Alexander Luthor's like, no, they did that to themselves. He goes, that was the real tragedy of it all. And it proved to me without a doubt that we were doing the right thing. That, hopefully they don't turn around later and go, oh, no, they really were.
I hope not.
Because that's the whole point of this series. That's the whole point of all the articles I've read about this series, is that they want to restore these characters. So the way to restore them, in my eyes, the best way is to make them realize just how far they've steered off their mission, and not make them grow up, but make them realize all this and make them go back to what makes them heroes.
While Alexander and Superboy Prime had these thoughts, these plans, they didn't put them into motion until all this tearing down of this world's heroes happened.
Right.
Like he says, they did it to themselves, and then they're like, okay, this is the perfect opportunity. They're as low as they're going to get. It's time for us to step up and make it right.
Yeah.
Well, just kind of comment on that. How much of this do you think Superboy is involved with? Do you think it's a partnership, or he's just more of the patsy of Alexander?
He's a dupe. That's all. He needed some strength, and he was easily manipulated.
That's what I think as well.
I thought that, but then they showed what the Superboy figure is going to look like, and I wonder if that's true. Because he has some attachments that don't make sense yet.
Yeah, it could also be that that's not Superboy of Earth Prime.
Yeah.
Could be if it's Connor Kent. If you haven't seen the image, we're talking about an image that was leaked online of Superboy with anti-monitor attachments, and it's an interesting thing. But the reason they did it is because they had the whole Infinite Crisis toy line that came out, so obviously they had to show it. But as somebody even said on the forum, they said, you know what? I thought I knew where this story was going. I have no idea. It always surprises me.
All right, let's just jump right into it. What's the deal with the new Blue Beetle? Oh wait, no, that's not the big thing. What are we gonna get to Superboy?
Sure, go ahead
All
if
right.
you want.
I gotta tell you, what a whiny little bitch. I didn't mean to while he's tearing through all these heroes.
That's exactly what I thought. Whiny little boy who didn't get what he wanted.
But that's where you see the abuse, the mental abuse that he's been going through, of being lied to and things not going his way because Alexander Luthor probably told him it would go a certain way and it's not.
I gotta tell you, what's her name? Panthra? I got decapitated. Panther, at that moment, that's when I went, holy shit, they're not taking any prisoners with this. I mean, I didn't even have to go any further before I was just, this is going to the next level.
I had to look back at that panel and go, wait a minute, her head's gone. I mean, you read through it and go to the next one. Wait. What's all the blood? Wait, go back. Oh my god, her head is gone.
And he rips off the guy's arm. It just starts the blood spree.
You know, when a pre-crisis strength level Superboy character goes mad, that's exactly what should happen.
Yeah.
It does. You know what? I was reading some message boards, and they were like, "Man, that's an easy target, just to kill and da 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 da." And it's like, well, it's not called Infinite Crisis for nothing. I mean, this isn't, I'm just having a bad day. It's called Crisis. I mean, shit like this better happen, or else I'm not gonna believe that change is in effect. I'm a little. I hope Red Star's still around. That's the only of all those. I was like, oh, Red Star. Oh no. But what are you gonna do?
Screw the guy who just got his arm ripped off.
I hated that character anyway. Risk.
Who was that?
Risk from the
Okay.
Dan Jurgens Teen Titans.
And how about the guy with the sword?
Bushido
Okay.
from a Titans annual.
He lost his legs.
Yeah, he kind of lost his whole body.
He got
in
Darth
half.
Mauled.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and as much as you know that our Superboy is not the real Superboy, it still shows that this universe is behind him. Because all he had to do was activate that sensor, and everybody and their brother came to help him.
Somebody pointed out on the forum that it's a neat counterpart to one of the first issues where you're watching Superboy watch all this stuff happen. You're watching Connor watching the TV, and his signal's going off, and he's ignoring it.
Yeah.
But then when he hits it, they all come running. And I thought that was a really neat parallel to that first issue, where he was so conflicted about helping his friends to the point where it looked like he was abandoning them. But when he needs help, they're right there. I think it's just going to go to strengthen his character as well. And it also goes to, Alexander Luthor and Earth 2 Superman, they're all saying, that this world is evil and decayed and blah, 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 blah. But look how Superboy of Earth Prime turned out. He turned out to be this nut job. But Connor Kent,
Who we thought was becoming a nut job.
Right, who he thought he was a wimp, and look at him. He's standing up and he's showing just how much of a good character and a good hero he can turn out to be.
Which gives you that whole reflection of self. You have a choice to make.
Right.
It doesn't matter what your environment is. It's what choices
makes
you
you
make.
up.
Exactly. Which really makes you who you are as far as a character.
Yeah. And that's a great way to look at what Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman. They've made choices that have taken them in the wrong direction, and now we're going to see the choices. We're going to see the consequences of those.
Consequences, right.
But we're also going to see them make the right choice, hopefully.
I was kind of curious, and I haven't read the issues yet, but I was actually kind of curious on what was happening to Firestorm.
Yeah.
I mean, because it looks like they take away his friend, who is Mick, because now Firestorm pretty much can join at will with another person, but he has to join with somebody to become Firestorm, I should say. And I'm wondering if it's actually
That gives a whole new.
yeah. Well, that was a Freudian slip there. I'm wondering if they're basically going to put him back with Dr. Raymond, since he kind of the other
Stein.
versus
Martin
Stein.
Stein. Martin
Martin
Stein.
Stein.
Yeah, it was Ronnie Raymond. Geez.
Ronnie Raymond, yeah.
But since the last issue, it seemed like another Firestorm was there, and now because it's like at last it will be undone as actually Alexander Luthor, but if this Firestorm will be whole again, I was just wondering,
Well,
I read the comics, and I haven't gotten a chance to read like the latest one, so I'm not sure exactly what's going on.
If anybody's not reading Firestorm, there's the thing that happens with that merger is if it's too long, the secondary person actually starts to disappear, evaporate, die, basically.
Well, and I liked in this how his friend is telling him, "Don't worry about me. Go
Right.
do what you got to
Right.
do because this is bigger. Do it. I'm fine. Do it."
Yeah.
And because Firestorm was wavering at that point,
Mhm.
he was really debating about no, because he wanted to save his friend, and his friends, no, I will sacrifice myself. Do what you got to do.
Yeah, it was a big. When I saw that, I went, "Whoa, that's kind of big to be in this." But you know what? That's what this series is about: is to show you the big stuff, and then you look at all the more personal stuff if you want to check out the tie-ins.
And I love that Firestorm 21 cover. I really should get all the Crisis covers like that with Supergirl's death and line them all
Yeah.
up.
What do you think of the different artists in this book?
It didn't bother me.
What?
I didn't.
The different
notice.
artists going from Jimenez to Perez to a couple pages of
I didn't
Ivan
even know there were
Reis.
different artists.
No,
There was
they
so
really
much story going on. I couldn't.
I think they blended
Really?
themselves very well. Whenever they do this, I mean, it's just like JSA. They have so many art teams come on and off, but it all
Where
blends
does it
itself
say
very
who
well.
drew what?
in the beginning credits. But you can see, if you're aware of it and you look through it, you can. It's very subtle, but you can see where there's.
Look at where Booster goes to the new Blue Beetle. That's an Ivan Reis page, the guy who did Ranthanagar War.
Okay.
And then if you look at the double page spread at the end of the space,
Yeah, that's where I can really see it.
Yeah.
And I now that you say that, I did realize it when I was looking through. I was like, "Whoa, that Supergirl looks a little different." And then I went and I saw what they had done.
Doesn't Perez take over on this page
he
with
does
the
all the
flashes?
Flash
Right.
stuff. Yep.
Yeah.
He also does the bottom of that space double page spread.
This one.
And I'm pretty sure he also does the explanation that Alexander Luthor gives on page 5, because it looks pretty much like Perez.
I wonder with that space page on the bottom. I wonder who inked George's stuff, because there you can really notice that it's George Perez.
Right. And the last page, the inks are a little wonky on a couple of the faces. They're a little strange.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, look how many inkers they have.
Yeah.
Well, Superman's face alone, he looks
One,
like he's 30
two,
pounds
three,
heavier.
4, 5, 6.
I mean, the reason I pointed it
7
out is
inkers.
because, if you think about how you can't drop the ball of being late, I'd rather have similar artists and get the damn thing out.
Well, we talked about that before, and JSA was the model for that.
Yeah.
You can continue to have artists that can either fill in or take over and keep the flow and look and feel of the book.
You know what I'm wondering though? Maybe what if they're going to use like Ivan Reis to draw Earth 2, and use Phil Jimenez and George Perez to draw Earth 1, just to keep a subtle difference. That way you'll know if they go between the two Earths exactly what Earth you're on. That kind of just hit me that because it seemed like he drew that the last page. And then that's when the two Earths split into, I guess Earth 1 and Earth 2. And so I'm just wondering maybe that's what they're going to do.
That would be cool.
Hey, speaking of artists, I'm looking at the Day of Vengeance special.
Mm-hmm.
This Justiniano guy, man, I want to know what book he's going to be on, because I want to buy it, whatever it is.
I can't remember
Man,
what he was
it's
drawing
good.
something, and I can't remember what it was now.
He drew, pretty sure he drew that Beast Boy miniseries way back. And he did a couple, I think he did the Titans annual that Bushido was first in. But you're right, yeah, he's
Man,
got
it's
some
really
stuff.
good.
I didn't see any announcement of if he was doing anything recently.
Yeah, I recognize the name. I just couldn't put a book with it. I knew I liked it, but I couldn't put a book with it.
Somebody will let us know.
I keep thinking, okay, now Superman of Earth 1 and Lois are back on Earth 1, and they're perfectly happy, and Superman's happy. How nuts is he going to go when he finds out
2.
he's been manipulated? Or Earth
right,
2.
yeah. Well, according to the cover of the next issue.
Oh, yeah.
Duh.
Yeah, I guess we're going to
But
find out.
I mean, like I'm waiting to see what he does to Alexander.
Oh, right.
I have a question for you, Peter. As to kind of segue with that, even though we kind of touched on this before, being a Dick Grayson fan, how did you feel when that kind of convinced Earth 2 Superman that maybe it's not worth trying to separate the two, bring his back? That he's kind of an anchor for.
He's an example
yeah.
of why this Earth is still. I think it's. I mean, I kind of posted this on the forum when somebody talked about. I think Little Witch or somebody read a Nightwing book and they were like, "Oh, okay, yeah, he is really cool. What's the story behind him?" And I said, ever since Wolfman took over New Teen Titans, Dick Grayson has always been the bigger character. He's bigger than Robin. He's bigger than Nightwing. Like no matter you put a different suit on him, he's still Dick Grayson. And the thing I like, and I don't know if it's a respect because New Teen Titans was just such a popular series and so well done, and Jeff Johns, Judd Winnick, Phil Jimenez these are all creators that grew up on that book. That I think I find it interesting that in all the years since then, there aren't many writers that steer Dick in a weird way. They don't make him crazy. They don't, he doesn't have many issues and things like that. Like, he is a consistently solid character. Maybe they might play with that a little bit here and there, but he's like one of the most level-headed characters for me. And I felt that way about all the Titans, always. So, to use him as the benchmark of what it means to be good has some precedence and has weight, because he is the one. He's the one that all that second generation looks to. Just as Superman, like in Kingdom Come, he's the one that they all look to him. Dick Grayson is that character. And now you got all these younger characters, Kid Flash and Wonder Girl and Superboy, that also look to that older generation too, Dick Grayson and Donna Troy. So I think, and it's another reason why I think this series really is about Superman, Wonder Woman, and Batman, is because everything kind of always goes back. Using Dick Grayson in that way means that Batman must have done something right. And showing Superboy go crazy just proves how much another hero that has the same Superman shield, meaning Superman, how he's such a hero that even though Wonder Woman kills and even though he doubts himself, he'll never go over to that edge and snap. And look what he could do. If Superboy can do that, think of what Superman could do. Now, obviously, we're different with different power levels, but so I think it's more a story element. I don't think it's so much of a. They're not trying to really talk about Dick Grayson. They're just using it as a point, So that's kind of what I got from that.
I really liked how in the explanation, Alexander Luthor said that Superboy was just throwing planets around, really giving a throwback to the old stories of Superman and throwing planets around like they were nothing. How about the absence of Wonder Woman? I'm sorry, go ahead, Peter.
No, go ahead.
How about the absence of Wonder Woman in this issue? Like, there's absolutely nothing.
Or Superman.
Yeah.
He was mentioned,
but like Wonder Woman, you have no idea where she is or what she's doing now.
I think it's just probably what's going on with her issues, with her own issues. What? What about the covers? The
What
Perez
about 'em?
versus which one do you? I mean, if you look at them, which one do you?
To me, it's just constantly Perez. I haven't liked any of the Lee covers.
I think out of all of them so far, this one is the first one that I think I have to really look at and try to choose. Whereas the other ones were a no-brainer for Perez for me, but this one I look at both of them going, there's something about each one of those for me.
Issue 1 and 2 were Perez. Issue 3 was Jim Lee, because I liked all the Earth 2 characters he threw in the back there as Superman's looking down at Batman. But this one, while I'm consistently picking up the Jim Lee one as my extra copy to read, the Perez cover is more dynamic. I mean, this is great with Superboy, but I just think the other one is just more dynamic in that fashion.
Now I got to go with Jim Lee just because the space stuff was never a big thriller for me. I mean, I understand you can't ignore it because that's making the space for the Earth, the two Earths, but I just kind of like this two Superboys again. To me, that's really what I pulled away more out of this issue than anything else.
I will agree with you on that. I think the Perez one is kind of misleading. I expected to see more of that story of the space, even though it started to touch on at the end. But something about the Jim Lee one, I can't believe I'm going to say it, but I think the execution, the design of it is kind of wonky.
And it's...
I think it's a little off.
You think?
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, there's something about it that draws me to it, which, like I said, I didn't feel that way on the other Jim Lee covers. This one, I just...
I think it's the mad as hell crypto.
Well,
That's what does
I
it.
love crypto, so...
Maybe it's, I don't know if it's the positioning of them, or I don't know.
Let me see.
I think the George Perez one throws back to issue 1 of the original Crisis in that it shows you just how all universe encompassing it is, because every character is on this going towards that same type of explosion, where the other one, it was all the Earths coming together, like all those. This one's the opposite of that,
right?
So I mean,
but as far as story content, that surely didn't happen in the book.
But it did, because Earth 1 and 2
did,
split
at the end. Yeah,
I mean, and that's what I took from the Perez cover.
I do like it though.
Now I have a question. The Earth, or I guess the Superboy Prime, which Superman would he supposedly grow up to be? Would it be more Earth 2 is the one, Superman is the one that can push planets, correct? because in here Superboy had to push planets, is what they revealed, which started the intergalactic war.
The pre-crisis Superman is actually the strongest of Earth 1 is actually the strongest Superman ever. I think even the Superman that we know now, I'm not even sure he's as strong as well, I know he's not as strong as this Superboy. But is he as strong as the Earth 2 Superman, or is he stronger just because Earth 2 Superman is older?
Actually, I don't think so. I thought that the Earth 2 Superman was actually stronger.
Yeah. I could see that.
So then, Superboy Prime here, right now, is stronger than the Superman that we know.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think that Superboy would grow up to be the Superman of Earth 1, not the Superman of Earth 2.
Right.
Because you figure the Superman of Earth 2 was in the 30s and all that, so that would make Superboy...
Wait. Superboy of Earth Prime, who's
Earth Prime.
stronger than Superman, grows up to be the Superman and he loses his powers and gets not so strong?
Yeah,
No.
he's depowered. That was the whole John Byrne thing. When they rebooted him, they made him less powerful.
Okay.
The Superman we know now can't move planets. He can't, he can't fly
Super
like
hypnosis.
at
Super
faster
ventriloquism.
than light speeds and stuff like that. He's not as strong as the Superman before Crisis, the Earth 1. The one that the Superman that
The one that
he
survived.
grew up before the Crisis. Yeah,
Okay.
Were the Alan Moore issues at the end where
I
they
don't
kind
think
of
you
like
read those.
I've never read any Superman comic ever.
Oh,
Right,
okay.
so then that's why. Yeah, but the Earth 2 Superman.
Liar, you read those Supermans in the showcase.
Oh yeah,
Oh, that's true, yeah.
yeah, that guy.
Who
can
just
do all that
qualified
stuff.
it.
It's pretty much that guy.
Right. So the Superboy of Earth Prime was on the same power levels as that guy.
Okay.
So if he grew up to be that guy, just think of how even stronger he would be. In fact, Byrne actually did a story where Superman that we know of now met the Superboy of the Pocket Earth. Remember
Yeah.
that whole mess? And,
Yep.
and that Superboy was wiping the floor with him. So that just goes to show that it was just...
That was one of the action comic, not action.
Yeah, it was
The
like
action was a team-up
crossover.
comic.
Yeah.
Are those in Mylars?
Yes, they are. Yes, they are.
We've created a
Ooh,
monster.
shiny.
I love it. Oh, they feel so important.
They feel so weighted. You put that 42 mil board in, and man, they got some stability to them.
That's,
Is this what
So
yeah. that's
so
awesome.
amazing. Even ROM comics look good in these things.
Okay, Captain Carrot and the Zoo Crew do.
What's his first appearance in?
ROM number 1?
You want some feedback on the forum here and there? ML says, go crypto.
Yay.
Poor Crypto getting kicked around, man.
Yeah, but he took a chunk out of Superboy's shoulder.
yeah,
At
there.
least
he
they
did.
put the yip on there because I thought, oh shit, don't kill Crypto. Come on.
Darth Kramer said, the scene with Bruce and Dick made this issue worth the $3.99 alone. Everything else was just icing on the cake. Hex says, I'm a Marvel guy through and through, but this issue and series so far is the best thing I have ever read in years. Every page I just kept going, no, and had to read it again. I am so blown away by how good this issue was. Issue highlight for me had to be Chemo saying, oop.
Yeah, poor Chemo. We haven't even talked about that. Gotta feel sorry for that big green glob of toxic waste.
I would like to see just a little dialogue in his head at some point where the villains are like, I don't really think he cares, and I would like to see him go, yeah, I believe in what I do, but I kind of don't want to. Boom, too late.
I'm glad. I mean, I wish something worse would have happened. Especially because of what happened in the original Crisis, where he took out freaking Aqua Girl, because he poisoned the water and she was in it, and just like, Let's see. Vince B says, man, oh man, oh man, oh man, oh man, oh man, what an issue. This is how an event is done. Knowledge of the history of your subjects, respect for what has come before, creativity, and a whole lot of heart. It doesn't get any better than this. This one from Mike Norton made me laugh. Man, this comic is the embodiment of why I'm experiencing a sort of reawakening of fandom. I can't remember the last time I picked up a book and went, hell yeah, or oh no, I can't believe that. Quite simply the best thing I've read in a long time. Because of stuff like this and CGS, and he says, I believe I actually mentioned I wasn't thrilled about Infinite Crisis before it came out on CGS, stupid me. I'm buying more comics now than I have in a while. P.S. I found it funny that several of the characters that just managed to appear on Teen Titans Go, the cartoon, got whacked in this issue. And then kind of in response to that, Zog Return says, discovering CGS plus Infinite Crisis equals double the monthly spending. That was funny.
Well, on Mike Norton's Crankcast, him and Crank and I think Tim Seeley was back on it. Mike's the only one that regularly buys comics now. The other two read sporadic comics, and I think they're both reading Infinite Crisis, but Mike's the only one that's actually getting his teeth into it.
Zog Return says, it was also interesting that issue 1 showed Connor ignoring his, this is where I got that thing from, ignoring his Titan signal, and when Connor calls for help in this issue, practically half the DCU shows up to save his ass. Wally, Bart, Max, Johnny Quick, and at least 3 others sacrifice themselves to save him. I want to grab Connor by the neck of his black t-shirt and scream, be worth it.
We got an email from David Price. He says, just want to let you know that I'm all caught up on Infinite Crisis, or Infinity Crisis, if I recall, is what someone said, or is what he said on the 100th episode. And all I can tell you is, wow. I picked up 2, 3, and 4 at Golden Eagle last Sunday and read them all in one sitting. I let out an audible gasp when I fixed my eyes on Barry Allen as the Flash grabbing the Earth Prime Superboy and telling Impulse he's not alone either. I cannot recall the last time I read a comic book and felt a combination of goosebumps and chills. Even if there were no words, that scene would have still blown me away. That made the series for me. Maybe I'm naive, but I did not see that coming, and I'm sure as hell glad for that. I did not pick up the special issues yet, nor have I read any of the minis bridging Countdown to the Infinite Crisis minis. I will, but for now, I'm happy with what I've got and don't feel too lost. I say too lost because I'd like to know more about the new Blue Beetle, what's happening with the Spectre, Shazam, the Ray, Gotham City, and things of that nature that's taking place outside of IC's pages. I remember reading Crisis on Infinite Earth as it came out, and I didn't feel like I was missing much by not buying every issue that had the Crisis stamp on it, like Amethyst, Legion of Superheroes, All-Star Squadron, etc. I had the same feeling now. I'd like the complete story, but I don't feel like I have to have it. You guys are doing an awesome job discussing the series. Can't wait for future events beyond what DC has in store for 2006. A loyal fan and listener, David Price.
I'll be honest with you, I think almost the opposite is happening as far as having to read every book to get the entire story, because I'm reading the Wonder Woman issues. And with issue number 3 of Infinite Crisis, they had Paradise Island go off into wherever they took it, and yet I'm still reading, like, they're still battling the Omax on Paradise Island, and I just got the last one. So, truthfully, Infinite Crisis is almost ruining some of the books that I'm reading, because there are little bits and pieces that I've gotten.
I think Batman's the same way, isn't it? I mean, I just caught up on all the Red Hood stuff, and there's not a whole lot of Infinite Crisis stuff in there yet.
No, Villains United would be. I was going to say what I would like to see them do either at the end or at the beginning of each issue is maybe at the beginning, just before you read this, you might want to consider going to these titles to kind of bridge in. You find out the new Spectre. Well, I didn't even know Crispin was killed. Unless you're reading everything, you're not really going to know. Or maybe at the end of each issue, say, continue, this storyline and these issues. Just to kind of, if you want to follow the entire story without having to collect everything out there, just kind of give you a path to go that you don't have to. But if you're interested in how we got to here, or where we're going to take this snippet of a storyline to the next point, this is where you could go to.
I'm sure by the time everything is said and done, you'll have that timeline, so you can go back and say, okay, because somebody
Peter will write
let's say
it.
some anal retentive person will sit down.
It's already on the forum. I didn't even do it.
And put everything together in chronological order, where to put it, and all that kind of stuff. Because I didn't realize, I just got it. I didn't realize that the Spirit of Vengeance thing took Day of Vengeance, Spirit of Vengeance. Jeez, man, you can tell it's late. Took place between, I guess, what you said, 3 and 4.
Yeah.
So now I'm going to sit down, I'm going to put that on top of the pile, and so I can read that.
Well, and on DC side, I think they're purposely not doing that because they feel that in these issues they're giving you enough that unless you're really diehard or really wanting more, you don't have to, because it gives you all the answers right there as you read the Infinite Crisis issues.
I think they know that we're buying all this stuff. I
They
really
better
do.
know I am.
I mean, like, I was thinking about that argument about, do you need to read everything and why should you and you shouldn't have to and all this, and I went, No, you can say that you don't have to read it, but those guys know we're going to buy this stuff. Who are they kidding?
They're not stupid.
No, they know. They slap an Infinite Crisis banner on there. The majority of the people who want to
I didn't read any of it.
Right. Well, that's why I said the majority. The majority of the people who want to read a full event, they will go out of their way to read it.
Working in a comic store, all I know is that you're exactly right. As soon as you get a lot of people who would say, I don't want it, something like this. A couple when like Cosmic Storm, we talked about Galactic Storm. Right. God, I can't say any damn title right.
Earmuffs.
Galactic Storm. They'll come in and they'll buy the first one. And they'll say, okay, I want everything. I'll just put it in, and we'd have to sit there and go this. Same with that. I was in Golden Eagle sitting there. Somebody came in, one Infinite Crisis. I want every crossover, and boom, right there. So you're right.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I'll ever get into that argument ever again because on either side of the argument, because it's an event, and if they really said if an interview they say you don't have to read everything to understand it, then they would not put the banner on those other books. They did it for House of M. They did it for Infinite Crisis. They're going to do it for Annihilation. Civil War. 52 is now crossover. What's another one? Like the Rand Thanagar stuff. And if they didn't want you to read it, they would not put the banner on the cover.
Well, Annihilation isn't a crossover. That's an entity in all its own. It's not going to have...
But each issue is going to have Annihilation on it.
The miniseries.
Right.
But not like you're not going to see FF number 538.
No.
Annihilation.
Crossover, wrong word. Event. That's what I meant. Right. Yeah. I mean, for them to assume... it's one thing to say, just go get Silver Surfer, and there will be people who will do that.
Right.
I already know I'm buying everything in that event. So they know that if they, like I said, if they really believed that you did not need all these other things, Infinite Crisis would not be splattered over a Nightwing, over JSA. So I'm no longer, you can't believe the hype. They can say one thing, but their marketing is much different than what they say. And it's the same thing with this, like what Matt was talking about. You should read this, you should read. They just assume you're reading everything. And you know what? When I read the original Crisis, I did the same thing. I went after everything. I was practically reading everything anyway, and I went after everything. And in the books of that, they would go, go read Amethyst 13 and go read this and that. So they were almost, pushing you, go, and they're not doing that here. And I think that helps to not make it so choppy. I think this one, and also this one is just, it's better controlled editorially than Crisis on Infinite Earths was.
Yeah, but I gotta say, I'm looking here at Gotham Central where Crispin dies. I don't see anything that says Infinite Crisis on there.
So,
although I believe the next issue has a big Infinite Crisis.
Yeah, there was one right before it that I think, or had a Day of Vengeance or something.
I gotta be honest, I don't always see those banners.
The one before it did.
Yeah.
But, and to me, I look at it, they should. Like for that, the whole Gotham Central thing, for me, I would prefer to read that. Mm-hmm. So it does tie into what you're reading in Infinite Crisis. So, like you said, if you didn't read Gotham Central and you didn't have anybody else to explain it to you, how would you understand, or what impact would they have of Crispin, becoming the Spectre?
I think it's the other way. I think they want you to go seek it out. Like they put that in there, because I thought about that too, and I went, okay, when I was reading the first Crisis, and Amethyst she was blinded. Sorry. I'm squishing the
I was like, my eyes are bulging out of my head.
Like that. Comics are meant to be rolled up. Sorry. I'll buy it.
Also put them between the bike spokes.
And so they blinded Amethyst, and then it went off from there. There's other little scenes like this whole Bloodhaven scene in this one too. It's like, if you want to know where it is, you're going to want to go seek it out.
Well, I don't disagree with you there, but the thing I'm saying is, like, now that you read Infinite Crisis 4 and you found out that Crispin's going to be the Spectre, what's the use of going back? You kind of read the climax before the build-up. You know what I mean? You're backtracking.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't read this, and I really didn't care. I mean, I'm just saying,
cool but there's different elements like that in each one. So I would prefer to have that information and read that before I read that.
But you see, I think you're saying about getting them to go back. I think that what they put in Infinite Crisis is just enough that you're going to want to go back. and find out why is he dead? Why is he now coming up and all he's saying is Corrigan? If you didn't read that, now you're curious to go into. Now it should have said maybe at the bottom to follow it up, read Gotham Central, so you knew where to go to get the rest of that story. But it was just, to me, in that it was just enough that if I wasn't reading Gotham Central, I'd want to go back and find out, okay, who is he? Why did he die? Why is he now after Corrigan, who I knew was the Spectre before? And to me, that's enough that it was...
Well, sure, it has that element, because not everybody's going to read Gotham Central.
Yeah.
So,
And they pretty much, in these 2 panels, they summed up probably that whole issue.
No doubt.
There, yeah.
No doubt. I totally agree with you, and I think that's part of the element of what they do. I was just comparing it to what Shane had said before, whereas, he was reading these issues beforehand and had this preconceived notion, so they did that intentionally to kind of string you along, and now they pulled the rug out underneath your feet, so you had a whole different experience doing it. So it's like both ways, you can still get a different experience from it.
You would have liked the experience up front.
Right.
Plus,
that's just me personally.
Yeah, well, look at the marketing the other way. Maybe somebody's only reading Gotham Central, not reading this, and then they hear the buzz about it, and they go, well, damn it, now I got to buy it.
I got to read it.
Yeah, so, I mean, marketing is an
event is an event. It has never not been done this way. As much as you want to sit there and argue the point, it's always been done this way.
Yeah. They want you to
no
buy
matter
the
how
other
much
books.
they want to say it or what they, you said, market it, hype it, it's always been the same.
No matter how much the people writing it want to go back to the days when they were growing up and write something similar or do an homage or follow up with something grand like they read when they were kids, it's still about making money.
And bottom line is, if you're enjoying it, who gives a flying hoot?
Yeah.
So, again, the readers win. So, no sense to sit there
Yeah,
and
and
argue
they're
and carry
getting more
on
of my
about
money.
it. Exactly.
They're getting more of my money. And they're going to get more. Somebody said about there's an Aftermath miniseries of the Battle for Bloodhaven, I guess that's what it's called. And it's like, okay, well, they can't stick that in the Nightwing series because that's going to be part of 1 year later. It's jumped ahead a year, so you can't, you hope in a year's time they take care of that story. So they're going to put it in its own little miniseries. If you want it, go get it. If you don't want it, it doesn't affect your Nightwing series. I'm going to get it. I know I'm going to get it, But it's not, it's milking the cow, I guess you can say, but where else do you want it? Are you going to bitch that it's in your series and that it's crossing over in your series, or are you just going to ignore it? If you want to ignore it, just ignore it. If you want to read it, go read it.
Doesn't mean you have to buy every series
Yeah.
from that point on or from before. You can just buy the issues that tie in to help supplement the story.
Right.
They're not necessary. And if, as a collector thing, you just put them in with your issues then. You don't have to go buy and complete the whole series or whatever. Yeah. So you take it on your own context. There's not one right way or the other.
Right.
But to me, of everything that's going to happen to push a series to 1 year later, making your city a nuclear wasteland, is pretty good. To come back in a year later to find out what happened.
Yeah. So it's I lost my train of thought.
I'm just trying to think. When we did House of M, one of the things I have to give it credit for is every time you start the issue, it gave you a brief summary of what came before, and it wasn't just in the previous issue of the House of M. It told you a little bit about what happened in House of M Spider-Man, so that you knew a little bit about when you're reading him in the story where he is now, and that's kind of what I would have liked to see Infinite Crisis, or like I said at the end of the book, just say follow the story in, boom, boom, and list the issues that'll touch on some of the plot points
that are relative to the story what you just read.
Yeah, exactly.
Instead of waiting until the end and then get a full timeline, or vice versa. So it's just, you're saying what they could do is to assist you is to, at the end of this issue, put a list of the other titles that tie into this story for what's going on here.
Well, I was going to say that'll bridge you to issue 5.
I see.
So like at the next one, there's always something, follow the storyline to get you to the next part, so that when you get issue 5 and you see some of the little storylines following along, you might have gotten those issues that kind of fill in that gap.
I see what you're saying.
I was just going to say it's kind of tough because, exactly what I was just saying about Wonder Woman, they still haven't. Paradise Island is still there. It hasn't disappeared yet. So, to tell me in issue 3 to read read this, it's going to tell me to read issues in the future. To me, there aren't many titles right now that are really heavily. I mean, Firestorm. I'm just trying to think of some of the others that are really, really heavily into this. And not even JLA is really that heavily tied into
one of the
Crisis.
one of the next Titans is.
I was going to say Titans.
Is the Superboy battle? It's like they retouch on it. I think.
Yeah. So it's to
like
do
a handful of books.
Yeah.
To do it,
just put at the end,
just
go
be
everything
that.
else.
Yeah, just read everything.
That's what I was going to say to you. Obviously, you haven't been brainwashed enough because the obvious answer is everything.
Yeah, it's because when you ask Dan DiDio that, he'll just say read everything.
I'm just too strong-willed. Give me a power ring.
I have
Okay,
another
guy. Matt Keener, our Guy Gardner.
I have another email here. This is from. It doesn't have a name. It's collectededitions.blogspot.com. So whoever does that, I guess, wrote this email. With issue 4 of Infinite
Isn't that
Crisis.
Chris from the.
No, not Collected Comics Library. Collectededitions.blogspot.com. Have you visited the Wait for Trade headquarters? I don't know.
You should. That sounds like you're kind of.
Apparently, yeah.
Yeah.
With issue 4 of Infinite Crisis, I feel the plot. Excuse me. I feel the plot has now really started moving. Unfortunately, this issue felt very quick and compressed to me. There was a lot of great stuff here, almost on every page, but it all just seemed to come so quickly that it felt like some things got shortchanged. For instance, when Booster Gold talked about the beetle scarab attaching itself to the new Blue Beetle's spine, I would have liked for there have been a scene where that actually happened. When Booster mentioned it, I felt like I had missed something. In the case of a series like Infinite Crisis, I don't mind being taken step by step, and if that meant that Infinite Crisis would have been 12 issues like the original, that's fine with me. I was, however, glad to see that it doesn't look like Wally West died, but rather that perhaps his whole family has gained super speed, Linda included. I felt it would have been death for death's sake if Wally West had died in Infinite Crisis, just like Barry did in the original. Better that Wally evolved some way, growing beyond the Speed Force. And all of the Countdown miniseries make a lot more sense now. I'm looking forward to seeing what happens in issue 5.
Yeah, I was just kind of sitting there thinking about a guy whose blogspot is named Wait for Trades, who's reading individual issues. It just, I don't trust that guy. I'm kidding. I'm joking.
I thought the same thing.
Hulk Smash on the forum said, "My only gripe with the whole IC thing is that it does assume that you are reading many of the other DC titles that tie into IC. I read the Olmec and Villains United Limited series, and at times I still feel out of the loop on what's going on. I think the series needs to stand alone in terms of the events. Take the 4 limited series that preceded it into context. Don't make something important to the series itself occur in one of the other books like Flash or Nightwing. That aside, the series is still great and is really making some huge changes in the DC universe."
All right, now let me talk about that for a second, because as much as I'm getting issues month by month, I am still like 3 months behind on most regular titles. But I read Infinite Crisis first. I read certain select things first, and they don't all tie in to Infinite Crisis. It's just the time that I have between all the other crap going on in my life. I can't keep up with everything like I would have, say, 4 years ago. So, to me, I still don't feel like I'm getting lost or missing anything. And maybe it's because I know I have the issues that I can go back and easily read them, but I still don't feel like I'm missing anything. I just feel like when I get to read those, it will just supplement that much more. There's nothing that's happening here that I have any less impact of, wow, that I would have if I would read those issues. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So, like, while I guess some people can feel lost and left out, I mean, obviously they do. I personally don't feel that, and I still have a lot of these issues to read and catch up on.
Well, I'm not reading any of the other stuff, and I don't really feel like I'm missing anything. However, I had a lot of questions. The whole Flash stuff didn't make any sense to me, and the whole who the new Spectre was, I had no idea that he was relevant in the DC universe at all. I just thought there was some guy dead on the table. I don't know who Corrigan is. I don't know any of that crap. I had no idea. It's like, okay, there's some guy in Gotham City who's now the new Spectre. Okay, somebody had to be Spectre. And when Jamie explained it, well, now I know. And I guess that's kind of why I wish they would either say, read these 3 issues of Gotham Central, or in the end of the last 2 take away 2 pages of ads from Infinite Crisis and put 2 pages of this is why this is important, this is why this is important, and this is what we meant to tell you here, and this is what really happened in these 3 panels. Because I don't know. If I haven't memorized the entire history of everything that ever happened in the DC universe, so some of this stuff is very confusing to me as a relatively new DC reader. And I think even if you read the Flash title, you probably still might not understand what the Speed Force is. If you just started reading it, I never read Mark Waid. I don't know what the hell the Speed Force is. I mean, I kind of had a loose idea from reading some Flash issues, but they still don't explain it to you. Like, I don't know. Like, maybe when it's all said and done, the final, they should have issue 8, and it should just be paragraphs of text explaining what everything meant. You know, because if someone doesn't listen to our show or doesn't have friends to talk about this stuff, they'd be like, they wouldn't know.
Well, and I guess that's where just casual talk between friends, since I followed more DC now for years. Not exclusively, but that's just stuff that we've always talked about that I've picked up on. I mean,
well, I'm talking about because I mean we've got a lot of emails that say, "Hey, for 5 years since I left college, I haven't been able to talk comics." Well, there's probably a lot of other people out there who don't listen to our show who are reading this who go, "Man, I don't know who's this guy? Who's Crispin? Crispin Glover? What? I don't know."
I think about I think age has a lot to do with that and reading experience, because when I was reading the original Crisis, I certainly didn't know who all those characters were. Now, granted, they were coming out with the who's who at that time, but my wonderment of this, my wonder of the story, as a kid, like seeing this huge sprawling thing, made me go out and look for those things. So does that mean, because we've been so flooded with event after event after event, does everything need to be explained to you, or is part of the enjoyment going out and seeking where that thing is?
No, I like to be spoon-fed.
Well,
for some people, yeah, but I guess for some people, no. I mean,
right.
You're always going to have that. It's never going to be the same. Just like what he said, what he would prefer, which made me think of like Avengers Forever. At the end of each issue of Avengers Forever, they would put all the issues where everything that was relative that they tied upon, and when they were traveling through time and doing things. Yeah. Some other people would not want that. They want to go, and like you said, that's part of the adventure for them. That's part of the enjoyment of it. So it's another aspect, another thrill for them to go and track some other stuff down and then read that and make it relevant. So it's one of those things. Again, you'll never hit everybody. So
right.
They make that page available that you can rip it out for those people that want to go hunt it.
Well, and
perforate it and spawn.
And it just might be a security blanket of me knowing that I have those issues, that I'm not worried about seeking it out. I just know I have it to read at my leisure.
I guess what I'm saying is I don't even know how to, like, they could put in the back, to find more out about the Speed Force, read Flash Ignition, or whatever trade paper that it's supposed to be. How do I know to even look for? I mean, there's hundreds of thousands of DC comics. I don't even know where to start. Luckily, I have you guys, but there are a lot of people who don't, and how do they even know?
And see, that's the thing that we talked about, and it got really more intense, I should say, when we were talking about House of M, that no matter what event like this you're going to do, you're never going to be able to encompass everyone. A new reader coming into this, and like you're giving that sort of viewpoint, is you're not going to understand everything that's going on. And it's not going to be easy for you to then just say, go read Ignition, because that's still not going to explain everything that will make you comprehend what just happened in those couple pages. So it's very difficult, but doing an event like this, whether it's Marvel, DC, anybody like that, you're never going to hit everybody, so everybody's going to be at the same level, on the same page, no pun intended, and be able to follow everything and understand and comprehend everything. So it's tough, but but in the same token, you have to look at the other side of the fence. If you would do that, then you'd have to dumb the story down, which then doesn't give it the...
Oh, no. First of all, I'll say I'm enjoying the whole series immensely, and I think it's really, really great. And I don't want them to dumb the story down, and that's why I'm saying what's in the pages of Infinite Crisis is fantastic, and I wouldn't change a thing. I would add a page or two of further explanation for those of us who don't know. If you know, you get to the end, you don't read that crap at the end. You skip it. You just say, what's that bunch of text at the bottom? I didn't buy a novel, I'm not reading it. But for those of us who want to know, here's a crisis counseling page.
So you want the Infinite Crisis Cliff Notes.
That's what I want. No, I don't. But I don't want Cliff Notes about necessarily
itself.
what's happened in here. I want the stuff to help me understand
You're
what
looking
happened
for,
in here.
for
the,
like reference flash volume this of a trade.
well, that or a
just
paragraph that explains what the
something
Speed
just-
Force
yeah.
really is. Because, the Speed Force is gone. Whoop-de-doo, I don't even know what it is. Why is that significant? I'm supposed to think it's significant because Jay Garrick is all like, whoa, the Speed Force is gone. I got there and I went, that's great. I don't have any freaking clue. What they just ran and they disappeared. Okay, next page. I just went on. I moved on because I didn't know. There was nothing. There was no point in my brain that I could go to make that event more significant. So I went, I'll just keep reading because maybe something else will be significant. Then I get to the two worlds splitting apart, and that's significant. But the Speed Force thing was just another page.
Has DC hinted to coming out with not only another Who's Who, but also another, what was that, History of the DC Universe type thing?
Yeah, it's going to be in 52. It's going to be a backup story. We don't know if this was a conscious decision or they just never thought about it or whatever, but if you put one of those pages on there, it almost gives it's not, what the hell's the word? It gives a reason, it gives fodder for those people who say, see, it's just an event. So I think marketing-wise, maybe you don't do it so that you can, like I said, no, we're not fooling anybody that this is a line-wide event. But to do that, does it make it seem like, okay, if we put this page on, that's telling people to go buy those issues, basically. You know what I mean? Now, the other thing, too, is like the explanation thing. Again, I go back to the original Crisis and comments on the forum where people say they haven't really read DC, but they're loving it, and the enjoyment of an issue is it's just like Aranya when we talked about the book of the month. When you don't know something, isn't that part of why we read? Look at when we get into our Bendis debates where they talk about, you don't get everything in one issue. It takes time, and part of the enjoyment is watching that story unfold. Now, granted, you're not going to find everything in this issue, like Kevin mentioned. You're not going to find explanations of the Speed Force and da-da-da, because they just can't physically
That's
do that.
what I'm saying.
Yeah.
There's a difference between letting a story unfold and not understanding. I love being confused in a story. Like you started a movie and a movie opens up in the middle of a scene and you have no idea what's going on, but you find out 45 minutes into the movie, oh, that's who that was. That's why that's important. I love that. I like that mysterious storytelling technique. But when they never intend to fill you in and they just assume that, well, you've either been reading comics for a long time or you'll talk to the guy at the comic store and he'll fill you in.
Well, I think that is the assumption. I don't believe that. I believe that there's a marketing aspect to this, that they want to get new readers because it's high profile and stuff like that. I don't believe that. I know that Jeff Johns isn't sitting down and going, okay, I'm writing this for the new reader. He's writing this for the people that have been around for 20 years. And I've said it before. This is being written for the fans, for the hardcore fans who are going to buy each and every crossover. It will get new readers. Their hope is that they will go out and seek all that stuff. Could they put that page? Sure. I'm sure they could, but maybe they don't want to. Maybe that's not their. I don't know what their plan is.
Well, and see, again, you got to take it all in with context because you're not going to encompass everyone. So when you have a new reader coming in, it's like, I know, just as an example, like when we talked about House of M, Peter, you said that because you didn't read Spider-Man House of M, you didn't understand why Spider-Man was so upset by the end of the issue, by the end of the series. But when you look at it now, as what you're saying about Infinite Crisis, when you go back and look at that now, a new reader would read that. They could still deduce that, okay, maybe we don't know all the details of what he experienced in the House of M, the Spider-Man edition, but you can deduce the fact that he was in something happened at the other reality which was supposed to be where everybody was happy. He was happy, and now being pulled out of that, he's not happy, and it had some impact. So again, it would
kind of like that Spectre scene with the
It'll get you to go back and maybe read that, or you'll just accept it and go like, well, something really bad happened. He experienced a cool, perfect life, and the rug got ripped out from underneath him, and now he's got to face reality again. So it still has an impact to it, but for that person who has read it, or that person who will go back and read it, it will have more impact. So there's going to be levels of acceptance, and how far will you go, and where will you just say, okay, that's cool, and I can leave it at that.
that Blue Beetle page in this issue is promo. Flat out promo for the
Right.
new Blue Beetles. I mean, they're not kidding anybody. I mean, that's just...
And somewhere along the way, that'll be explained, or you'll see some more of that.
Mhm.
But yeah, it's absolutely just an
You know,
advertisement.
there was one page in, the first issue, and then now there's another one in issue 4. So it's obviously that story is really taking its good-ass time to play itself out.
So basically, I think the way we can best resolve this would be, Peter, by the next Infinite Crisis special that we do, have a
Summary.
end notes for every issue, so we know
Annotated.
where.
I didn't have it as a kid when I read the original Crisis. I mean,
Don't
they didn't
because
do
you
that.
didn't think of it before.
No, I don't think it's any of that. I think it's just, as a kid, it was there. I just knew that I had to go out and get it myself. I mean,
We can do that now.
I can see.
I'm not the one that's asking for it. He is.
I can see both aspects of it.
Right.
And it's just, I can totally understand what you're saying, that there could be something to help guide new readers into comprehending more of the story. You can still
I need the annotated Infinite Crisis. That's
Well,
what I need.
We're
Well,
like
in the
secret
hardcover.
files.
They did do it in there. Like I said, when the original Crisis, the Who's Who actually came out before Crisis. It ran, and then it ran neck and neck. I mean, so that's where you would have gotten your knowledge of all things. But that series certainly wasn't finished by the time Crisis
Well,
started.
maybe they should have done that. Maybe they should have done, or maybe by the end. Again, I'm fine if knowing that issue 8 or something would have been, or a special Infinite Crisis special, or Infinite Crisis Who's Who. So I read all this. There's a lot of stuff I don't
There
know.
is a Secret Files coming out.
I read the end of issue 7. I say, well, okay, that was cool. Then I buy this thing, and maybe that's it. Maybe it tells me about the Speed Force. Maybe it tells me about Corrigan. Maybe it tells me about all this stuff.
Right.
They can't release it ahead of time because it's a spoiler, and that's fine. I wouldn't want that. And then I can go back and reread each issue with some notes and say, oh, that's what's happened. Okay.
And then in 52, you're going to get the backup history of the DC Universe, which they did also at the end of Crisis the first time. So.
I know, Peter, you and I had talked about that. I said that to you about when I saw that Secret Files for solicitation. I had talked to you about that, and that, I think, was the reasoning behind that, that I think a lot of those things that might be questionable will be explained in that. So it'll be
Right.
like a compendium to what you're reading. So it can either build onto, even if you're already aware of it, or explain some things if you're not aware of
Yeah.
it, which I think is a smart idea to do.
I don't know. For me, I'm in the same boat Peter was in when I read stuff like that. That just piqued my curiosity, and I wanted to go and seek out and find out more about it. Now, you could have gone to your DC encyclopedia. I'm sure there's a thing in there in the Flash section about the Speed Force. Absolutely positive. I won't say I'm absolutely positive, but I'd be willing to bet.
I could have sent an email to Scott Beatty and asked him to write me a 3-page report.
But still, I mean, for you, I can't believe it hasn't piqued your curiosity. I know you're a very curious person who wants to know how things are. Things like that, I don't want to be spoon-fed. I mean, if I can read stuff and I don't need to know everything. I can piece together, and this story I could piece together. But if I wanted to read more about the Speed Force, I would, in the day of the internet, when you can go on there, I'm sure there are a million fan
I don't
Flash
want.
sites.
I don't want some
if-
half-assed, half-baked information.
then to
I want
me,
the
it's not that
official.
important to you.
I want the official DC explanation of why the Speed Force is important and how it works. And
But then it's not that important to you, because if it's not important enough for you to take a couple seconds, you're at that computer every day for how many hours? Punch in Speed Force under a Google search. You're going to come up with a website that's going to tell you exactly what the Speed Force is.
the problem is, when I was reading it, I was in my car on lunch break, and by the time I get into the building, I forget that there was even a scene that mentioned the Speed Force. So I don't remember what I'm supposed to look up.
I keep forgetting we're talking to Memento over here.
I mean, again, I think the obvious. We said it before. This story is really more aimed at the longtime readers, and it's going to get new readers, yes, and hopefully they will seek out some of the stuff.
It's just there's just so much information out there that if you really want to find out, it's there for you to find out.
Mm-hmm.
So. And we're looking at the encyclopedia right now?
Yeah, and I looked at Speed Force in the index in the back of the book, and there is 6 pages listed
Reference
for Speed Force. Yeah, and the first one I pulled up is the 2-page shot of the Flash, and it says the Speed Force as Flash Wally discovered his link to the Speed Force, an energy source that gives all speedsters their power. Tapping into the Force made Wally the fastest Flash of them all, able to run at the speed of light. One of the founders of the current and most powerful incarnation of the JLA, West has garnered a lethal rogues gallery as a champion of Keystone City. The Flash revealed his secret identity to the world, and after several failed romances, he fell in love with married reporter Linda Park. After the battle with villain Zoom ended in the miscarriage of their unborn twins, West asked the Spectre to remove all memories of his identity from the public consciousness, including Linda, to protect those he loved from the dangers he had continues to face as the fastest man alive. So that's the only thing they took. And
So wait a minute. Does Jay Garrick get his powers from the Speed Force as well? So if the Speed Force is gone, wouldn't he not be a Flash anymore?
That's the whole thing.
That's the whole thing.
He realized he couldn't run anymore. He couldn't, because you can feel, a speedster can feel the Speed Force. It's like, almost like the Jedi Force. He can feel it, and when he runs, he knows how fast he has to go, and so on and so forth. So when it was like boom, and he's there suddenly, he realizes that he can't run. Even with a tendency, I'm sure he could run a little bit, but he realizes he can't tap into that force because it's just gone. And I was actually wondering, maybe that was the moment that the two worlds split. Because if you think about it, the Speed Force came about in this Earth when Wade wrote about it, and Wally West found out about it. I'm wondering if when those two worlds split, that's when the Speed Force has gone away, because we didn't have the Speed Force.
He didn't disappear until the end, and that was really when it split.
Yeah, but maybe as they were starting to split, it left. I'm again speculating.
Yeah.
I have to say, I just find it interesting how I bring up a comment about confrontation, and he zips up the definition right away. We talk about Speed Force, and we got to go get that. It's a 10-minute conversation while we break out the encyclopedia.
I believe they call that owned. No, just kidding.
But unfortunately, there is not like a page,
A separate
where
page
they
to
talk
Speed
about
Force,
the Speed Force. So even looking in the encyclopedia, you
She.
So so there is
Get Beatty on the phone.
There's not going to be an explanation of Speed Force in the Infinite Crisis Secret Files either. So don't hold your.
Well, you didn't read it yet.
What
else would they put in there?
Go get the Flash trade.
What else would they put in there?
I have the
It's
issues.
a vital part of the whole storyline.
Maybe.
I have some of the issues, and it's probably going to be in the secret files of the Flash, I would assume.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I have a couple of those. I'll have to look for it.
I mean, I understand the concept now. I'm just saying, I've been reading DC for 5 years, which is, that doesn't make me a complete newbie, but I'm certainly not a longtime veteran. But it should be long enough that, practically everything that happened in this series, if I didn't talk to you guys, I would have absolutely no freaking idea what was going on. I mean, why are there even two Earths? I wouldn't even know that.
Yeah, you're still loving it. So
I know, I'm saying, but I'm loving it.
That just goes to show you what good story.
I'm loving it more because I have explanations. That's
Which, like you said, I mean, that's how they have to look at it. They have to realize what they can include and what they can't include. And if they allow that to restrict themselves, then we're like, well, we can't include that because new readers won't understand that. Well, then it affects the story then. And that's what I meant by like dumbing down the story, because you're going to have to pull things out of there and not include things specifically because of that, which then takes away from, like I said, if you take away that they wouldn't have put that confrontation between the Flashes and Superboy in there and what happened, and that's how it all came about, if they would look at it that way, they would have to take that out of there then, which means, well then,
or Barry Allen. The appearance of Barry. Right. If you don't know who Barry Allen, you're like, well, so. Is that Wally?
Him, but what's that?
Is that Wally?
Yeah.
What? Oh no, Grandpa. Who? What? Yeah, I mean, so you're right. It's tough. It's a
very
and
tough
that's why
to
people do not. Some people just stay away from events because they can't take the overwhelmingness of it all. I guess I don't even know if that's a word.
We're looking for the normal mass released version and the director's cut.
Yeah. For me, it's like the more stuff they put in it, God, the more I just. But I obviously have a history with this, and a love of it. So,
which you're on medication for.
Yeah.
And to me, that's why I love events, because being the guy who loves the history and loves to know what came before, and loves that kind of stuff, loves these big events, because I can look on it and I can say, oh yeah, that's who that is. I mean, I was having trouble. What was the second issue where they had the big fight underwater with Aquaman?
Yeah.
I didn't know who half those people were who were dying, and Adam was here, and he was rattling off, oh, that's that guy, and that's that guy dying. And
he went in Rain Man mode.
Yeah, and a little guy, I mean, about a half an inch big. Oh yeah, that's that guy dying, and so it has the levels of geekdom that it pays off. To me, it's just a payoff on having paid attention to what I read before. And that's why I've always loved big events. And
having invested so much money and buying their books. And
So it separates the geeks from the dweebs, is what you're saying.
Yes, it does.
I mean, you think about like
Uber geeks.
Yeah, and not all crossovers have been this good.
No.
I mean,
And that's what I was going to comment. I was going to say, look what we're getting now.
Oh my God!
You know what I mean? So they're finding out that this is what, if you're going to do an event, this is how you're going to have to do it. They're doing it, and now you're going to see Marvel following up with Civil War. And
I was just going to say, this has me stoked because if they're paying attention to what's really going on, that series, that Civil War, is going to be the Marvel way that they do it. It's not going to be, universes colliding and things like that.
Right.
You're going to probably get, I assume, some more human aspects. And I mean, it has me Jones for that. And they're, as much as they want to market it, they're doing the same thing.
Exactly.
There's a prelude in Fantastic Four. There's the Illuminati special. I mean, they're not kidding anybody.
No.
It's an event. It's going to cross. They
and
already
hit
said
almost all the characters.
and they already said they're coming up with a cover trade dress for those issues outside of. It's all marketing and it's all. And you know what? I love it. Give me it. If it's good, I'm going to be there. I'll buy all your stupid tie-ins. I might as well just throw you my wallet. But that's okay. I like that.
I think that's where it's finally come down to, because after all the arguments over all the years with events, they finally realized, you know what? Let's just make it frickin' good and run it across the board, and you get from it what you get from it. We're not going to try to exclude people intentionally or anything like that. If you just make it good, it really doesn't matter. So if you make it good and people can read it and understand it and enjoy it without getting all the other stuff, it's just the people who want to do that just makes it that much more better of an experience.
Yep.
And you just got to learn to accept it. That's just how events are, and that's the only way you can do them. You can't. It's very difficult to make an event and not include it continuity-wise, or
Oh my
you're trying
God.
to tie it into. Because
There's no way this could have survived 7
Exactly.
issues and that's it. No way.
Exactly.
No way.
And with this event, I haven't found myself buying anything that I don't normally buy. So it's not, so when I say I'm reading this, I'm reading that, I'm reading that, these are all the books I've been reading all along. It's not like I've gone out of my way to buy anything different, other than like the specials. And that's because they're specials. It's not like it's a new series or anything like that. It's just the specials. So.
And think about it. It's the perfect marketing tool, because you're creating such a great event that people are just loving the hell out of. And if it does intrigue you to go pick up issue of Gotham Central and go pick up an issue of this, then you might start buying those issues and reading them regularly as well. So
I said it before. I'm reading Catwoman.
Right.
Catwoman! I never thought I would read Catwoman. Catwoman.
So again, they win, we win. It's a all-win situation.
Right.
Yeah, Catwoman, not just a movie anymore.
Thank God for that.
On that note, I think we should wrap it up. An hour and a half of our yapping. All right, so I guess we'll just...
I guess the final answer is listen to CGS, find out what happened in Infinite Crisis, and if you have any friends out there, get them to listen to CGS. We'll tell you what happened.
This is the compendium.
Yes.
Right.
Peter will have everything prepared by the next.
By the next time, there'll be an appendage.
They said it on the
to
forum. They were like, who were all those people who died battling Superboy? Da-da-da. I just wrote it all down. They were like, thanks.
Well, and see, the listeners can do that. They could send in emails, for the next one, preparing for issue 5. So when issue 5 hits, get your emails out, and they'll give us something else to discuss.
Yep. All right.
And Peter will add another page to our book.
See you in a month.